Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about color principles. These are guidelines slash rules, if you want to call them that. But ultimately, color principles have been around with us since the early dawn of painting, um, and having an idea of how to work with colors is very valuable in a graphic designer's field, and they can actually enhance and make a product or a design more readable. Um, First off, we're going to look at the color wheel first. Um, the one on the right, um, you can there's this full color that's here, and then this frame right on top here is you can spin it, and you can give you a general idea of the color principles or the ideas of which colors you need to fulfill the color principles that you're looking for. So the one on the right is stationary. It has lined up the colors accordingly, and then the one on the right kind of shows you that it's spinning or in motion, and it can go all the way around. The color principles are located right here in the middle of the wheel. Um, we're going to go through a couple of these, and it also kind of gives you the other definitions of the color, like the tint, tone, and shades. And that's again something we're going to look through more closely. This color wheel you can buy at an art supply store for about $8. It's really handy to have. I still have one by my desk, because sometimes I'm just thinking like, oh, what color would work with this, and then kind of just have a general idea, um, you know, how to design or to kind of lay out my ideas on a sketch with some color. Um, but ultimately, when I'm thinking about color, I'm always thinking about what's going to look like in black and white. And so this is the same color wheel. I removed the frame, so you don't see the frame. You just see all the colors at one time. And then I also converted it to black and white. The value of black and white is that just there are folks in our world that walk around with what's known as an invisible disability. It's a disability that we don't see because you don't. It's something that's not displayed, such as somebody who has a wheelchair or um, such as a wheelchair. So it's something that a lot of folks in the world have a color blindness, and they can't really see the full spectrum of colors like you would see on this color wheel. So ultimately, their world is kind of already converting everything to black and white, and having an understanding of your color principles helps you ensure that you are not only reaching the folks that can commonly see color, but using the color principles ensures that you're reaching folks who cannot read color, but they can still read your document, because all they rely on is contrast. A general rule of thumb for all designers: yellow, pure color of yellow with black almost looks exactly like black and white. So it has the most contrast between the colors with black ink. And then if you use a dark blue, violet or a dark blue, if you use a black ink on one of these shades of color, nobody's going to be able to read it, particularly those with a color blindness. So you can have some element of contrast, but it's a very low contrast. So something that I always think in mind. All my projects always start off in black and white first, because I want to make sure that the idea or the principles of layout and design are um, predominantly set, and then I always come back later and start figuring out where the color goes, because that part will help dictate and help support the principles that I'm using for laying out all the elements. The hue is known as the pure color. If you work around the outside of the wheel, these are all the hues. It just depends on, but in this case, I want to talk about the pure colors, because when we learn in primary school, it's the red, yellow, and blue can make all the colors in the wheel. So if we had red and yellow mixed together, we get orange. But if that orange has a lot more yellow into it, that would become more of a yellow orange. And if the orange has a little bit more red into it, that becomes the more red orange. And it just kind of works its way around the wheel. This is also the first color principle you'll learn is the triad. I'll give you that right now, because it's the three colors on the wheel that are equally divide the wheel into thirds. Now, then we talk about the tint, tone, and shades that you find within the color. So if you use tint is the pure color plus white. The tone is the pure color plus gray, and the shade is the pure color plus black. Now, when you have this, this is what we'll talk about in a moment, is the monochromatic effect. These are all the same color except they look different because you add different amounts of white, black, or gray. And this is known as a monochromatic, which we'll talk about in just a second. But these are the color principles that we're going to talk about. We already kind of touched on the monochromatic just a moment ago, and then we touched on the triad. But we're going to actually kind of look at them and see them in use and in play. Now, monochromatic, again, is basically the pure color in anything in the same range by just adding white, gray, or black to the color. Now, the logo here for Animal Planet is very close over here, a little bit more on the yellow-green side. So if you think about it, it's not just these set of colors. It's basically there's, different degrees of yellow-green or different degrees of green or blue-green. So, depending on, again, this is kind of a mixing of paint. Depending on how much you add of the green or the blue on the neighboring colors, you're going to get a different range. So within the, let's see. Yeah, and then when we have, so you can have, something with a little bit of yellow that makes it yellow-green, or you can have a lot of yellow and make it yellow-green. So, it kind of transitions it into each other very nicely. Analogous is basically choosing one pure color, and we'll say the orange in this case, and then the two colors on the neighboring side, the yellow-orange or the red-orange, makes up what's known as the analogous range. And whichever way you turn this wheel, the principle plays is just knowing where to find the pure color, and then the analogous will be the colors neighboring to it. It's a far-fetched if you go all the way to the yellow. And it's a far-fetched if you go all the way to like the red-violet, but it's basically the closest colors to it. In this case, this is can be a little bit more of a stretch, I think, but it's more like this yellow-orange is way down in here, and then there's the red-orange, and then there's the red. So they kind of stretch that color range as far as possible to get the Tostitos logo here. Complementary. This is, again, just finding the pure color. I'll say the pure color is yellow. This would be more of a tint of the yellow. And then you have the violet, which is probably going to be more of the pure color of the yellow or pure color of the violet, or somewhere between the pure color and the shade. And again, complementary is, opposite of the wheel. So no matter which way you turn the wheel, as long as you choose the one color, like the red-orange, the complete opposite is going to be the blue-green. Split complementary, one of my favorite color combinations, because it's, here's the pure color of blue that we see on the outside of the logo, and then the opposite of that would be the orange, and that's the complementary. But the split complementary is using the colors on the just neighboring of the orange, the red-orange, and the yellow-orange. And, so you have this another more dynamic color principle that kind of comes into play. And, again, colors complement each other when they're on the wheel. Opposites, in this case, do attract. And then we come back to the pure colors, and we come back to the triad, which is cutting the wheel into equal thirds. And those colors on those sides will become what's known as a triad. And again, no matter which way you turn the wheel, if I were to turn the wheel to green, if I were to turn the color to green, then the triad would be orange and then violet in that case. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And thank you. Have a good day.